It has been 9 months since Saeed kissed the little foreheads of our children, and as he said his goodbye early in the morning of June 22, 2012. 9 months since Daddy sung to them and tucked them into bed, and 9 months since I embraced my husband as we said our goodbyes, thinking at that time we would be separated only a few weeks, as he returned to Iran to continue work on building an orphanage. Maybe if I knew what was to unfold, I would have held him a little longer, talked a little longer. It has been 5 months since the frantic phone call that woke me up in the middle of the night, telling me of the horrific way my husband was taken. 5 Revolutionary Guards raiding the house and taking him, not knowing where he was or what had happened to him. 5 long months. Maybe that is why still to this day I suddenly wake up frantic in the middle of the night. I turn over, only to find Saeed's empty spot, only to find that the nightmare is not over yet, only to discover that this nightmare will not be over anytime soon. It has been 1 month to the day since Saeed was given his 8-year sentence because of his Christian faith. I know deep in my heart that unless we speak out and fight for him, Saeed might not survive the 8 year in that horrific prison, especially because he continues to face continued abuse and death threats. This nightmare exists because Saeed refuses to deny Christ. He is standing up for what he believes. Are we going to stand up with him? Are we going to be a voice for him when the Iranian government is doing all it can to silence him? How many more nights am I to hold my weeping children as they ask me to tell them stories of how Daddy used to hold them when they were born, how he used to play with them, kiss them, and hold them each night before he tucked them into bed? How many more times must I hold back my tears as I sing the worship songs he used to sing to them, as they beg me to sing like Daddy did, because they're trying desperately to hold on to the memories of their Daddy? Over the last months, I've pondered over and over how I will ever explain to my children that Daddy has been given 8 years in a horrific prison, and we don't even know if he will survive. 1 month, 31 days, 744 hours, 44,640 minutes, 2,678,400 seconds. During this nightmare, I lean on the promise in the scripture, 2 Corinthians 4, 8-9. We're hard-pressed on every side, yet not crushed. We're perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. Ultimately, God is in control, and He controls governments and situations for His glory. There is nothing Saeed and I desire more than to die to ourselves and allow Christ to shine through to this dying world, that He would be glorified in all of this, and many would come to know the saving grace of Jesus. Our trust is in the Lord. He is carrying us through this nightmare and drawing us closer to Him. But I also believe that the Lord is using our prayers and political, social media, and other efforts to bring us closer as the body of Christ. He promises to turn all this for His glory. This nightmare and the plea for my husband's life should cross religious and political barriers. It should grip all human beings at our heart's core, motivating us to do what is right, to stand up for someone whose human rights are being violated. While Saeed doesn't have a voice to sing to his children, we have a voice for his freedom. We can make a difference. This is Naghmeh Abedini, wife of the imprisoned American pastor Saeed Abedini. Please visit SaveSaeed.org and let your voice be heard.
This is not getting discussed on the mainstream media. Not only are they wrong legally, but the fact that they would do this is outrageous. This is an overreaction and really nonsense.
How would you react if this was your son or your daughter?
It's the offense of knowing the truth. It's the offense of having an alternate worldview. Saying God bless you to someone is not a violation of the law.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. You're going to want to get into this conversation early because in our studio today is Pastor Saeed Abedini's wife, Naghmeh. We're glad you're here, Naghmeh. And I'm going to get to you in just a moment. I want to get an update from you and how your family's doing. But first, folks, we've got teams at the UN right now. I mean, as we are on the air, and I'm glad our television audience is with us, we are at the UN on behalf of Pastor Saeed. And I'm going to get Jordan right now to give us an update. I know we don't have the final intervention. We do know this much, that in the reports from the Human Rights Rapporteur on Iran, Pastor Saeed case is in there, which was a huge victory in and of itself.
There's two key dates, and this is one of them, March 5th. Today, as people are listening right now, we've got a team at the UN Human Rights Council, our European Center for Law and Justice, actually, who are experts in presenting this before the council, all 47 member states. Well, we're waiting for an update from them. We're also waiting March 11th, a very key report. I know you talked about it yesterday, from the Special Rapporteur on the human rights situation in Iran. This is a UN-appointed individual whose only job and only position as an attorney is to talk about the human rights situation and report on it. We know that's also a key date, which means we've got more time to add names to this petition. We've got until March 11th now at the UN for a second opportunity.
Yeah, and by the way, some of you that are watching this on television are going to be seeing it after these dates. That will still be important for you to still engage, because there will be subsequent hearings in June, in July. If we don't have Pastor Abedini out by then. Our prayer is, of course, that he's out by then. But if you're watching this right now on television, we're going to encourage you to take action. And Naghmeh, let me ask you this very quickly to give everybody kind of a sense of what, how are your kids doing? How's your family doing in light of the situation with your husband?
They're doing remarkably well, but they're struggling. They're very emotional about it and can't wait till he comes home. They're waiting for that day.
So is this something they're asking about? Are they asking about their dad a lot?
Every day they see a dad or every day they talk about it. Every bedtime routine. They talk about him. They ask about him. And yeah.
When we come back from the break, I'm going to get more into this, the aspect of this, and a little bit about how Saeed Abedini came to faith in Jesus Christ. You're going to want to hear this, folks. Let me tell you something, folks. We got people at the UN right now. Sign on to this petition. SaveSaeed.org is an easy way to do it, aclj.org, or simply call us at 1-877-989-2255. Naghmeh's in the studio with us. You call right now. Show your support as we work on this emergency relief for this pastor. Back with more in a moment.
The situation for American Pastor Saeed Abedini is getting worse. This U.S. citizen is being beaten, tortured, and subjected to psychological abuse as he serves 8 years in one of Iran's most brutal and deadly prisons. Pastor Saeed is facing a life-threatening prison sentence simply because of his Christian faith. He's no longer permitted to call his wife and 2 young children who live in the U.S. His family does not know when or even if they will ever hear his voice again. The ACLJ continues to work here at home and around the world to secure his freedom. We continue to pressure the U.S. government, the United Nations, and the European Union. But we need to hear from you. There's power in numbers, and that's why your voice is so important. Sign on to our petition now to save Pastor Saeed. Time is critical. Call now 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.
Welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. Naghmeh Abedini is in the studio with us to talk about her husband's case, talk about how she came to Christ, and we're going to get right into that. But I want to ask you to do something first. We have crossed over 410,000 of you have joined us at SaveSaeed.org or ACLJ.org, signing this petition for Saeed Abedini. There is another hearing in a week. I am setting a very high goal, which is to get as close as we can to 500,000 people. But here's what I'd like you to do right this moment. While Naghmeh's in the studio, you go to the phones or go to aclj.org and sign that petition, or you call us right now at 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255 or aclj.org. Let me go right to Naghmeh here. Actually, we've got a call coming in from your hometown, or at least your state. Jason's calling on line 1. Hi, Jason. Welcome to the broadcast. You're on the air.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to let Naghmeh know that we're Faith Community Bible Church here in Boise, Idaho, and we have been following you guys and just want to know our whole church is praying for you this Sunday. We're having a special Sunday service just to pray for you and your family.
We appreciate you calling in, Jason. And let me ask you this, Naghmeh. I know you're getting a lot of emails and a lot of calls, and people say they're praying for you and your family. What does that mean for you? And how does that impacting you?
Well, first I want to say thank you, Jason. It's great to hear from someone from Boise and that your church is praying. But really getting all these messages that people are praying, their pastors talking about it is really encouraging, that our family and Saeed especially is not forgotten. And people are remembering him in prayer and lifting us up in prayer and being supporting us during this time.
Let me ask you this question. And Jordan, I know you've been following this as well. The story of how you came to faith. We'll talk about Saeed in a moment. But you were born in Iran. Yes. Let's talk about that and what brought you to faith.
Was born in Iran, lived there till I was about 8 or 9, fourth grade, and grew up right after, actually was born right before, a few years before the revolution, which a lot of people got to see a little bit of it in the Argo movie, and grew up in war. Soon after the revolution, there was a war with Iraq, and so grew up in a war-torn country with missiles and houses being bombed, and I always questioned where God was and who God was and could not connect with him. And we tried, me and my brother, to do the Muslim prayer, which we were being taught at school, and there was nothing, but we had a lot of questions. Because of the war, we came to the U.S., and at that time, my brother, we still didn't have any idea who Jesus was, any ideas, and my brother had a vision that Jesus appeared and said, I am God. And I am the way, the truth, and the life. And he came to me and said, I found him. I found the God we've been looking for. I found, and so ever since we accepted Christ and prayed and have walked into that amazing relationship.
That's really something. Jordan, I need a question.
Well, and I think, we haven't focused as much on Naghmeh's story as well, which is, like Saeed, a family coming to Christ, a whole family coming to Christ, which is important as well. It was you and your brother. But then your parents who followed years later, you were already in the United States, so they had the freedom to believe, but it wasn't the reason why they came. And it took years to a point where even at some points they weren't necessarily happy about your decision to follow Christ. But eventually now you've got both Saeed's family and your family who, after your decisions, and after you and your brother decided, after Saeed decided, these families who came to know Christ, the entire families.
Because in your family, you're watched closely. It's where all the reality comes out, and they would watch us. My parents watched us for 13 years and see if this is real. Is this something that they first thought we were brainwashed by the West and tried to, So, but what attracted them and what attracted Saeed's family was that they saw a real relationship and they saw change since our conversion, and that's what drew them, even though they were very strong Muslims as well.
We're over 410,000 signatures on this petition called Save Saeed. We are at the UN literally as we speak, and we've got 2 opportunities at the UN right now, and then we're going to have 2, we'll have additional ones later on. But I want to continue to see this momentum grow. So if you have not yet signed this petition, and especially when Naghmeh's here, go to aclj.org and sign that petition. Sign their name to it. I'd love to be at 500,000 by the time we have the hearing next week. And I know that's going to be really tough, but that would be quite a statement. And while Naghmeh's here, let's see if we can get this again, which is increasing daily. And a huge thank you for so many of you that have called us. Thank you. And add your name online at aclj.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org or 1-877-989-2255. And while Naghmeh's here, that would be a great time for you to add your name to that petition. Let's go to Rachel. She's calling from Georgia on line 5. Hi, Rachel.
Hi. I just wanted to tell her that I'm a completed Jew, and I have such a burden for Iran and the people there. And I pray for Saeed many, many times every day. Not one morning wakes up that I don't wonder what he's doing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon there. And I know there's lots of people just like me praying for him. And when he gets out, I imagine he'll be astounded at how many people were praying for him.
How does that, again, Naghmeh, you go through, I'm sure, a whole run of emotions here. How is, I know you're getting a lot of church support. People are praying. Are you feeling those prayers?
It's amazing, and Saeed has talked about it, that he feels the prayers. They keep him going. He feels the body of Christ praying for him, and he's suffered greatly, but he's encouraged by that. And I've heard so many testimonies, as I just heard, that people get up in the middle of the night and they wonder, is it noon there, and what Saeed's doing, and they pray for him, what he's going through, and just for everyone to be thinking about what's happening and continually praying for him is just
amazing.
And we know now, too, from the United Nations, we have a guaranteed slot for next week. And that's a big opportunity. I think, that's why we have our team there today. Sometimes they say it's only today, and if you don't get on today, you don't get a speaking opportunity. Now we have a guaranteed opportunity to the point where they're giving us an extra day. If he isn't able to give this, there's not enough time next week for our representative, who's the European Center for Law and Justice. So that's next week in Geneva, and that gives us another week here to put together the petition, folks. So if you're listening right now, we just heard, now we've got Naghmeh in the studio. If it's not real enough for you, go online right now, check Twitter, check Facebook, see the photo. She's right here talking to all of you, and we're getting the UN report as she's sitting here, as we're on air live on the radio. And if you haven't picked up the phone yet to call and join this petition, this is the time to do so. You call right now, 877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255. You can also go to aclj.org and sign the petition online. And of course, as you know, the prayers matter, the petitions matter, and trust us. And Naghmeh, you know this as well from doing so much media we've done together. We haven't been in the same studio much, but to do all of the media, we've heard it time and again from those asking the questions, the news teams, the reporters, the anchors on air. They want to know about the petition. They want to know how many people signed. They want to know about SaveSaeed.org, and they ask us directly every time.
Yes, and I want to emphasize on that. Not only do we have a week that we would love to see 500,000, but even after that, to continue to get the word out. A lot of people have said, well, it's over 300,000. We don't need to sign anymore. No, the more signatures, there's going to be opportunities later on in the coming months. The more signatures, there are more opportunities to present at different events.
And to talk about that, though, we hope that this is over before it's even on air. I mean, honestly, the truth is we have to think that way. And Saeed is thinking that way too. It's not a overnight change. He said from the very beginning, this is not going to be a short-term situation. He could tell. He
could tell. He initially, when they were promising him to be out in the first few months, he said he was able to talk to me. He said, this is going to be a while. They don't want to let me out.
Now, 410,743 of you have signed this petition called Save Saeed. You just heard from Jordan. We've got representatives from the ECLJ, that's our European Center for Law and Justice, right now in Geneva at the UN. We've got another hearing next week where we have a guaranteed oral intervention slot. That's a big deal. We're going to be deploying additional people on that one, believe me. We want to have 500,000 by then, if possible. I mean, God, all things are possible. That would be great. But we've got Naghmeh in the studio right now. You go to aclj.org and you sign on to that petition right now. If you're not one of the 400,000 plus that have done so, then do it right now at aclj.org. Or you call us at 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org, or 1-877-989-2255. Back with more in just a moment.
The situation for American Pastor Saeed Abedini is getting worse. This U.S. citizen is being beaten, tortured, and subjected to psychological abuse as he serves 8 years in one of Iran's most brutal and deadly prisons. Pastor Saeed is facing a life-threatening prison sentence simply because of his Christian faith. He's no longer permitted to call his wife and 2 young children who live in the U.S. His family does not know when or even if they will ever hear his voice again. The ACLJ continues to work here at home and around the world to secure his freedom. We continue to pressure the U.S. government, the United Nations, and the European Union. But we need to hear from you. There's power in numbers, and that's why your voice is so important. Sign on to our petition now to save Pastor Saeed. Time is critical. Call now 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.
Welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. Naghmeh Abedini, the wife of Pastor Saeed Abedini, is in our studio with us, and we're talking about the pastor's case. We talked about how you came to Christ. What about your husband?
Well, my husband comes from a very strong Muslim family, and he was involved with he was very much involved with his the Islam religion, and very radical. And until he became a Christian, he was 20 years old. It was the year 2000. And he also had an encounter, and from that time, Jesus told him he's coming back soon to go preach the gospel. And so from that day, he started evangelizing and sharing the gospel and starting house churches in the year 2000. So
talk about the I know we're be careful on this, but on the house church movement, people are trying to get a sense of what's going on in Iran and believers. Are people coming to faith? Is this a clear move?
Yes, that's why I believe the clergy and the high-up religious leaders see it as a threat, because the Iranian people are so much different than the government. They're very agnostic. They believe there is a God. They're tired of religion, and they're very open to the gospel. And just seeing with Saeed the first few years that the house church movement had started, there was a few thousand that came to know Christ, and it was growing very rapidly.
All right, we've got a lot of calls coming in. I'm going to go right to the phones right now. Summer's calling from South Carolina on line 6. Summer, welcome to the broadcast. You're on the air.
Hey, I just wanted to let you know, Naghmeh, that we love you. You are a sister in Christ. We love Saeed. He is our brother in Christ, and we want to see him come home so that he can spread the good news of Jesus Christ. We're praying for you here at Calvary Chapel of Greer in South Carolina, and we will be signing the petition as a whole, as a church body.
Summer, if you could get those in your church to also sign on to that, makes a huge difference, again, and we appreciate you calling in. Naghmeh, I'm hoping that by getting these calls, it's going to be an encouragement to you. That's why we decided to have you in here.
It's amazing.
Live.
Thank you, Summer. It was amazing hearing your voice and knowing that I have family in the Carolinas praying for me.
As I said, Naghmeh Abedini is in the studio with us right now, and we're talking about Pastor Saeed's case.
John is calling in from Colorado. If you want to talk to Naghmeh, folks, this is an opportunity that won't happen often, even though we do a lot of interviews, and she's done a lot of interviews to be able to talk to her with words of encouragement. Today is the day to do it and to keep calling if you want to do so. John in Colorado on line 2. John, welcome to Sekulow Live. You're on the air now.
Hi, John.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment. Someone called in last week and said what you all are doing is not Christian, but I just disagreed. I want to say Proverbs 24:11 says, "Rescue those who are unjustly sentenced," and goes on, don't try to avoid responsibility. So exactly. I just wanted to thank you, Jay, and all the people are doing, and Naghmeh, God bless you. And
thank you.
So it's all of our responsibility to rescue those who are unjustly sentenced.
And I believe in Naghmeh. I know you believe this too. All the interviews, which aren't easy to do, to talk about what's happened to your husband on a daily basis live, but you're given a platform, and the Bible, I think, is very clear. When you're given these platforms, when you're given these opportunities, you use your rights. You're here in America. Unlike many people who are in Iran in these prisons, for Saeed to have a wife and a family here who can go on television and speak the truth, speak truth to the world, that's key.
And I've had a lot of people bring up this question. My trust is in the Lord, is in God, but he does, as the body, he wants us to surround each other in the time of need and to be a voice for those who can't be a voice, those who are being persecuted for their belief, and the voiceless and the weak. And so it is our responsibility as the body, as human beings, to stand up and do what's right. We have a God of justice. God cares about justice and what's right. So I have to agree with the caller.
Well, John, thanks for calling in. And I will say this, the overwhelming calls that have come in have been so supportive. We're over, right now, I just got a report, we're just about to cross over into 411,000 signatures online. Folks, and with phone calls, we're probably well over that now. So go to aclj.org. If you are not one of the 410,945 people that have signed this petition, do it right now at aclj.org. That's aclj.org or 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org or 1-877-989-2255. 2255. Let's grab another call before the end of the broadcast.
Kathy's calling in from Idaho on line 4. Kathy, welcome to Sekulow Live. You're on the air.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi. I just wanted to tell her that we're praying for her family and we're thinking about her and that we love her and the whole family too.
Thank you, Kathy, and I love you guys. You're part of my family.
I want to, again, thank all of our callers that are coming in. And appreciate you calling. And Kathy, thank you for calling as well. Let's get another phone call.
Let's go to Brian calling from Texas on line 2. Brian, you're on the air. Thanks for calling in.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
I just wanted to tell you that we're praying for you. And every night when I pray with my kids at night, my 8-year-old son Jack says, "Have you heard anything about Pastor Saeed?" If I tell him no, I haven't heard any updates. We got to find out, Dad. We got to keep praying for them.
I have to say, I was at a preschool recently, and I had preschoolers praying for me, and I was in tears. I have, like your son, 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds coming up and saying they're praying, and it's just the most amazing things, prayers coming out of the mouth of these babes. And please thank your son for me, and tell him we're going to see answers soon. Keep praying.
Let me ask you this, Naghmeh, and we're getting up to a break here, but what are you telling your kids?
I tell them not to. These kids have so much hope. They want to hear updates because they expect him to be free tomorrow.
Right.
Is he free yet? And they have so much hope, and I don't take that away from them. I say, just keep praying. We're going to bring him home.
That's exactly right. And that is the plan, folks. To give you an update for those that are joining us late, we have lawyers at the United Nations at our European Center for Law and Justice right now. We now know that next week we will actually present oral arguments, if you will, before the UN. Which body will it be before, Jordan? Next
Human Rights Council, the entire Human Rights Council.
The entire Human Rights Council next week. Let me ask you this, Naghmeh, just a few seconds here, but I want to get this from you. You're talking to people all over the world, over 1 million people right now. What do you say to them, these folks that are listening right now?
That if you're a believer, that as my sister just mentioned, that I pray that you would have a new fire and zeal for Christ in your life, and you would just stand up for him where it's difficult, be it prison or be it just being rejected in society, which is a form of persecution. And if you're not a believer, I just pray, if you're Muslim or Buddhist or whatever you are, that deep in your heart that you're not fulfilled, that there's something missing. And I just pray that you would just try Jesus, not him and how others have represented him, unfortunately, but really just Jesus and how real he is. And that my prayer is that you would come to know him.
Thank you, Naghmeh. Naghmeh Abedini. Be in prayer for her family, and her husband, of course. And be in prayer for our legal team as we're about to go off the air and make some big decisions about what happens next week at the United Nations. We've got a very unique opportunity, and we are going to walk through that as we do here at the ACLJ. That's going to do it for the broadcast today. Again, thanks to our television audience for being here as well. If you want to sign on to that petition, you haven't done so, it's easy to do. ACLJ.org. That's ACLJ.org or 877-989-2255.
The situation for American Pastor Saeed Abedini is getting worse. This U.S. citizen is being beaten, tortured, and subjected to psychological abuse as he serves 8 years in one of Iran's most brutal and deadly prisons. Pastor Saeed is facing a life-threatening prison sentence simply because of his Christian faith. He's no longer permitted to call his wife and 2 young children who live in the U.S. His family does not know when or even if they will ever hear his voice again. The ACLJ continues to work here at home and around the world to secure his freedom. We continue to pressure the U.S. government, the United Nations, and the European Union. But we need to hear from you. There's power in numbers, and that's why your voice is so important. Sign on to our petition now to save Pastor Saeed. Time is critical. Call now 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or add your name online, aclj.org.